People, in the last few weeks, Diet Coke has been disappearing from India and the Indian Gen Z had gone crazy.
Now in India, finding a can of Diet Coke is turning into a bit of a treasure hunt, especially the Gen Z is treating it like a full-blown crisis.
Sad reels of empty fridges and dramatic posts like "my emotional support drink has abandoned me."
I can handle LPG crisis, but Diet Coke shortage, not okay.
And when I asked why, the answer I got was aluminium shortage.
Global tensions rise, supply chains start taking a hit. And one of the biggest things affected right now is aluminium.
Aluminium cans run short, Diet Coke disappears.
Aluminium can shortage which has happened, and India doesn't have enough manufacturing units for cans, so we are heavily import dependent on aluminium cans.
But do you realize it is absolutely ridiculous because India is literally the second largest aluminium producer on earth. In fact, India has enough bauxite to last 350 years, and it is also one of the best bauxite quality in the world. On top of that, we also have one of the cheapest labor rates in the world.
Aluminium is the metal of the future.
Bauxite deposits have come as a blessing.
India's aluminium production hit 4 million metric tons, making it the second largest aluminium producer in the world.
It is the most versatile and widely used metal in the world.
So on paper, India should be the Saudi Arabia of aluminium, right? In fact, you will see this pattern occur again and again across industries in India. We are called the pharmacy of the world, but we still import 70% of our active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. We are one of the largest producer of iron ore, and yet we import specialty steel for our own bullet trains. We have the third largest reserve of rare earth, but we still don't have a single commercial scale rare earth magnet factory. And this paradox reveals something absolutely shocking about India's growth story. And you are not going to like it. So the question is, what does this Diet Coke paradox tell us about the weakness of India? Why the hell are we importing aluminium cans from Sri Lanka when we have 350 years of aluminium? And how is the Modi government supposed to solve this problem? Before we move on, I would like to thank NeuroGum for supporting our content. People, today, because of reels, short form content and constant notifications, the average person's attention span has significantly dropped. Some studies suggest that it is now around 47 seconds. And we see the effects of this in real life, blanking out during an important meeting or reading the same paragraph again and again and yet not registering anything. This phenomenon is commonly called brain fog. And data suggests that 1 in every 3 people worldwide is dealing with this issue. Unfortunately, most of us have started normalizing it. So to deal with it, most people rely on coffee or energy drinks throughout the day. But the problem is, while these drinks may give you a temporary energy spike, they actually don't improve focus. Instead, they often lead to jitters, anxiety, and crashes. And when our team researched a proven solution, we found something very interesting. Scientifically, when caffeine is combined with a natural amino acid called L-theanine, it delivers calm and stable focus without anxiety or crashes. This exact science was used by Kent and Ryan, who launched it in the US 10 years ago in the form of gum and mints. That innovation is NeuroGum. Each piece contains 40 mg of natural caffeine and 60 mg of L-theanine, which is the optimal combination. Caffeine helps activate your brain, while L-theanine promotes calm, focused energy. An independent MIT study even showed that people using NeuroGum reached a high focus state 21% faster. And after massive success in the US, it's finally available in India. So if you're looking for a scientifically backed solution for brain fog, you should definitely give it a try. The link is in the description. Before we go further, one thing has to be very clear. When we say aluminium industry, we're not talking about one business, we're talking about a 5-stage pipeline. And each stage makes dramatically different money. If you look at this funnel carefully, the red rock at the bottom sells for $40 a ton. The finished can sheet at the top sells for $3,560 a ton. So do you realize that is a 90x jump from the bottom of the funnel to the top of the funnel? And if you look at the funnel, the money in aluminium is not actually in the mine, it is actually in rolling mills. And here's one stat that I want you to remember for the rest of this video. Hindalco in Q2 of FY23 earnings report says that raw aluminium on London Metal Exchange was $2,367 a ton. The same aluminium as can sheet sold for $4,877 a ton. So, do you see? The premium for rolling is $2,510 a ton. Long story short, the premium for rolling aluminium into a can sheet is larger than the price of the aluminium itself. So every ton that Hindalco rolls into a can sheet, they make more money on the rolling than on aluminium. Now remember this number, $2,510, and we'll come back to it. Now let's look at India's report card across these 5 stages. The 5 stages of aluminium production are bauxite, alumina, primary aluminium, which then gets rolled into sheets, and then these sheets are used to make finished cans. Now stage 1, 2, 3 are low margin stages, and here we are absolutely world class. Here we barely make margins of 10 to 25%. But in stage 4, the margins range between 20 to 30%. But for this stage, we built the factories, but we are running them at less than 1/3 capacity. Why? I will tell you very soon. Now, if you look at stage 5, it is the highest margin stage of all, where we could generate 20 to 40% depending on which finished goods we manufacture for which industry. And for this highest margin stage, we actually import from United Arab Emirates. So the top of the funnel looks absolutely amazing, but the bottom of the funnel is where the money is, and the bottom for us is almost empty. And you know what is shocking? The UAE has zero bauxite, not a single gram. They import every bit of raw material from countries like India. But the United Arab Emirates built one of the world's most energy efficient aluminium hubs. Why? Because they gave their industry 2 things India doesn't: cheap and stable electricity and zero political friction. Now let's put some numbers to this so that you understand the gravity of the situation. We started with 100 rupees of bauxite in Odisha. India refines it to 200 rupees of alumina and smells it to 660 rupees of raw material. So in 3 stages, 560 rupees of value was added. Then India shipped that metal to the United Arab Emirates, and in one rolling step, the UAE turns it into a 1,350 rupee sheet, adding another 690 rupees of value before sending it back to us as a finished can at 1,500 rupees. So India did 3 stages of heavy work and UAE only did 1 step. And yet UAE made more money than India did across the entire pipeline. This is how we are giving away high margins to other countries after doing all the dirty low margin work here in India. And in spite of having one of the cheapest and the best bauxite reserves in the world, we are still losing out on the margins. So now the question is, why does it happen? Why can't India simply master the high margin stages like rolling, extrusion and finished goods? Well, the answer is a vicious cycle that I call the aluminium trap. And this trap is quietly suffocating 3,500 MSMEs that make cans, foils, car parts and window frames. This is one of the most underrated crises in Indian manufacturing, and almost nobody is talking about it. Let me break the trap into 3 parts. Part 1 of the trap is the fact that Indian aluminium is cheap globally, but it is somehow very expensive for Indians. Do you realize that is again ridiculous? Like I said, India makes the cheapest aluminium on the planet. But an Indian small business still has to pay the same cost as the international buyer. That makes no sense, right? Oil is expensive because we don't have it. But why is aluminium expensive for our own business owners? Well, this is where the government's own policy becomes a problem. The government of India levies a 7.5% basic customs duty on imported primary aluminium plus social welfare surcharge. This was done with the intent to protect Indian producers from aluminium dumping. So if the foreign trader tries to sell in India, their product with 7.5% tax would become costlier as compared to domestic aluminium producers. So the assumption was that factories in India will get cheap aluminium from domestic aluminium producers. Good idea on paper, right? But here's what actually happens. Since foreign aluminium is expensive, the Indian producers realized that Indian companies cannot buy from foreign traders anyways. So they increase their price to be on par with the international prices. So if the foreign trader sold it at $3,500 a ton, even when the Indian prices could be $3,000 a ton, they would still sell at $3,495 a ton. This is called import parity pricing. Now, the Indian primary aluminium market is controlled by 4 large companies: Hindalco, Vedanta, Nalco and Balco. And nobody is forcing the prices down. Now, a lot of people would argue that the government should force their prices down. But if you think about it from these companies' perspective, they also have a point. If Vedanta can sell their aluminium for $3,500 a ton on the international market, why would they sell it for less in the domestic market? This is the reason why India exports 50 to 70% of aluminium it produces to US, Europe and Asia. And there, stage 4 and stage 5 process is carried out and then it is sold back to Indian companies. So eventually, our own can makers pay higher premiums for aluminium that we ourselves send abroad. This is part 1 of the trap where domestic aluminium is artificially expensive. Part 2 of the trap is that aluminium is 80% of an MSME's cost. Now imagine you run a small factory in Pune making aluminium cans. Your single biggest cost, 80% of it is the aluminium itself. And that aluminium is priced like it came from abroad. So your margins are already wafer thin and your factory is already running at 65% capacity because demand keeps swinging. And this is where trap 3 comes in. While the government of India levies a 7.5% duty on raw materials, it levies 0% on finished products. Now we did some market research to figure out what would be the approximate cost difference between a can produced in India versus a can produced in Korea due to these duty gaps. And we took the 330 ml Diet Coke can. Now here's what the numbers say. Let's say an MSME in Pune wants to make the Diet Coke can. Now the aluminium sheet is their biggest cost, which requires 15 grams per can. Now because of India's import duty parity pricing, they pay 6.1 rupees per can just for the metal. Add manufacturing, energy, labor, stamping, that's another 2.6 rupees. Add compliance and working capital costs of 1.2 rupees. Add another 0.5 rupee margin and the can leaves their factory at 10.4 rupees. Now, a Korean factory makes the same can, but they buy aluminium at the world's market without the 7.5% duty premium. So their metal costs 5.67 rupees, their manufacturing cost is 2.1 rupees, shipping to Mumbai costs 0.8 rupees, and they give themselves a healthy 1.2 rupee margin. And even then, the cost of the can is only 9.77 rupees. And when the Korean can crosses Mumbai, the import duty is 0. Yes, it is 0. So, do you realize the MSMEs of India are being taxed for their raw material, but at the same time, their competition is not being taxed when their finished goods come to India? And why are we not charging them import duty? Because India signed a trade agreement with Korea. So as Coca-Cola India, if you're given a choice between buying an Indian can at 10.4 rupees or a Korean can at 9.77 rupees, obviously you would choose the Korean can over an Indian can, right? So Coca-Cola India, in spite of being in India, would still choose to buy a Korean can as compared to an Indian can. And if you scale that 0.6 rupee gap across 10 billion cans, then Coca-Cola is looking at a mammoth difference in bill of 630 crores. So now the question over here is, why do we levy a 0% tax on finished goods? And by the way, if you compare global duties to India on primary aluminium, India levies 7.5%, Europe levies 3 to 6%, South Korea only charges 1 to 3%, and even the US charges less than 2.6%. This is the reason why South Korea is very easily able to import aluminium with less duty and export cans to India at 0 duty. This is the story of India's aluminium dependency. So do you realize aluminium is one of the rare commodities that we have in excess? We don't have lithium, we don't have oil, we don't have cobalt. So it is justified that we have to pay a higher price for these commodities. But why do we have to pay a premium and send our money abroad even for the commodities that we are blessed with? This is the question that the Diet Coke paradox is asking from India's growth story. We are rich in raw materials, we are rich in primary processing, but we keep giving away the most valuable part of the value chain to our foreign partners. And here's where we, the citizens of India, have to understand that Atmanirbhar Bharat is not about raw materials. It's about owning the most profitable part of the value chain. And until we acquire the most valuable parts of our value chains, we cannot become an economic superpower. This is the story that the Diet Coke paradox tells us. And I just hope you learned something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.